how to get your goals and dreams to chase you. In this video, I'm going to chat all about how I pitched live to Simon Squibbs, Ferdinand and Steven Bartlett a couple of months ago, even though I did a video already on the Steven Bartlett pitch. But this is more so around the manifestation side of things and the visualization side of things, and how to collapse time and essentially get all your desires, goals, dreams to chase you, right? And to get onto that frequency as to how that happens. And I know a lot of you might be thinking, I can't do that, I find it really difficult, I'm trying so hard to get to my goals and it still hasn't happened yet, or I set out goals years ago and I still haven't got there. And the reason why you haven't got there is because you keep focusing on the how. You keep thinking that it needs to be this really difficult thing, or it needs to be a big huge struggle or a lot of hardship in order to access your dreams and goals. But that is not the case. And I do believe in working really hard, but I believe in working really hard in aligned action. And there's a huge difference between someone who works hard and smart over a busy fool, right? But today's video, I really wanted to teach you how to get all your desires chasing you and all your biggest dreams and goals chasing you. The first thing you need to focus on is your state, right? Your state of being. Too many people focus on their strategy. So they focus on, okay, how am I going to get there? So let's say you are a runner, for example, or you're someone who deems yourself as not a runner, but you want to run a half marathon, right? You are someone who identifies as someone who does not run. So you keep saying to yourself, I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner, but I do want to run a half marathon, okay? And you cannot change your identity of saying that you are a runner until you take action, right? And until you change your state. So what happens is, you, instead of focusing on how I'm going to run a half marathon, you take the first step that anyone would do when they go into running, which is maybe signing up to a coach or getting a plan or whatever. And maybe your first run is something like 2 minutes walking, 2 minutes jogging, 2 minutes walking, 2 minutes jogging, right? And you keep saying to yourself, I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner. But you keep showing up and you keep taking the steps, and next thing you've ran 5 kilometers, and then you've ran another 5 kilometers, and then you've ran 6 kilometers, and then you've ran 10 kilometers, and next thing you are a runner. And now you start identifying as someone who is a runner, okay? What did you do to get to that point? You took action and you changed your state. So instead of focusing on how you were going to do that, you just took the first step, which was the walk, run, walk, run, walk, run. Okay? Now the story that you tell about yourself is different. Too many people focus on the how. How am I going to get there? How am I going to get there? And how creates uncertainty because you don't know how. When you're at the beginning stages of anything, of a goal, a dream, whatever it is, and you keep focusing on the how, what resists persists. You don't know how you're going to get there yet. For me, I don't know how I am going to be an international speaker, or I don't know how I am going to be an actress one day, but I know that those are things that I am going to do. But I don't know the how yet, and that's okay. But I'm going to take steps that the highest version of myself would take, and that's all I need to do, because that's aligned action. It's not all I need to do, but it's one of the steps, right? Changing my state. And then just changing the story you tell about yourself, right? Instead of saying this story of, I am not a runner, I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner, you'll never change your state. So if you start from strategy of like, how am I going to run a half marathon? and you don't change your story, you can't change your story because you keep focusing on the how and you don't know how you're going to get there, and you keep telling yourself this story of I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner, guess what? That's where you will stay. You will stay in that state. And that's a lack mindset, and it's a fear-based mindset. And that is exactly where you will stay. As opposed to the person who started from changing their state, not necessarily changing their identity just yet, but changing their state because they took action steps towards being a runner. Now the story is different because they've evidence. They've evidence to show that they are a runner. And now they start identifying as someone who is a runner. I am a runner. And now they know how they're going to run a half marathon. Because there's someone who's a runner now. They've built evidence by taking the baby steps. And when they sign up to the half marathon plan, they know that they're going to be able to do it. Okay? So how equals uncertainty. The how creates uncertainty. You must detach from how you're going to get there, and you must change your state in order to succeed. When I was starting my first business back in a horse shed with no money, no connections, nothing, right? In the middle of nowhere in the south of Ireland, in a tiny village. If I focused on how was I going to build an online fitness business that gave me location freedom, financial freedom, and allowed me to travel the world and work from anywhere I wanted online, if I focused on that how, I would still be back at home in the middle of nowhere in that horse shed. That's where I would be if I focused on the how. So what I did instead was I changed my state. I asked myself, what action can I take now that the higher version of myself would take? And I used what I had. And that's where embarrassment being the cost of entry came in, because I used my horse shed as my gym, where I posted live workouts every single day for free. Because that's what the higher version of myself would do. Now they'd probably do it in a way nicer shed, or they'd probably do it in a nicer gym, maybe a nicer shed, and that's how they would show up. Other ways that I got onto the frequency, so you must get onto the frequency, the state that the higher version of yourself is in. What else would they do? They would look after their nutrition. They would look after their water intake. They would practice gratitude every single day. Gratitude and generosity are the gateway to success. If you practice gratitude every single day and you are kind or generous in some way, shape, or form, that allows you to get on the frequency of abundance, right? So there's two frequencies that we usually work from, okay? So you either have lack or abundance. And lack, what's in lack is fear. So it's fear state. I don't know if you see this, fear state. You're worrying about the how. You're victimizing, like, why not me? Not me. You're saying things like, I don't have the money, I can't afford this, this is not who I am. So this is just not who I am. I can't do this. It's not realistic. That's another one that I always hear all the time. So it's not realistic. And this is just not who I am. So maybe for the person listening, that's you right now. Okay, so you're identifying as someone who doesn't have these things, right? So you're saying, you're in a fear state. You're saying, how am I going to do this, Kate? Why not me? I don't have the money. I can't afford it. It's not realistic. This is just not who I am. the person who I want to be like, I'm so far away from that person. All of those sayings that you're saying to yourself, or if you're identifying as being a certain way, that's where you're going to stay. That's the state that you're going to stay in. Okay? Because when you want to get anything it is that you want in this life, you have to change your way of being. And if you're telling yourself, I am bad at speaking, and you want to be an international speaker, or if you tell yourself, I am bad at acting, I can't do that, I can't be an actress, I haven't taken lessons yet, I haven't done auditions, then you are going to stay in that state. And the thing is, a lot of people actually can still reach their goals by being in a fear-based mindset, but usually that's where they burn out or they can't sustain it because they keep thinking that they need to push harder, when actually what resists persists. Sometimes you're actually pushing it hard, like further away from yourself, because that's a lack mindset. It's a fear-based mindset. It's kind of like, it is the law of attraction. So it's like attracts like. You know, if you keep saying that you don't have the money, guess what? All you're going to attract back is, I want more of that. Or I can't afford that. Oh, I want more of that. That's what your brain is hearing. As opposed to, I am abundant, I am grateful for the roof over my head, I'm grateful for my clothes that I'm wearing, I'm grateful I have the money to buy the clothes that I have, or buy the food that I have, or buy the coat that's on my back. That's saying to the universe, God, source, that, oh my God, I have loads of money, I want more of that. That's essentially what's happening. But if you keep identifying as in lack, or as someone who can't, you cannot change your state. And if you keep asking the how, you're never going to change your state, and you're going to stick where you are right now. And that's why nothing has changed. So you need to identify as the person who you want to be, or who you aspire to be like, in order to quantum leap, in order to get into that reality, or to get onto that frequency. And it is so much quicker than you think. It can happen so quickly once you understand these principles. So what does abundance look like then? How do I get into an abundant mindset? Because you need to identify, like, you need to be in abundance in order to have your desires chase you. So what I want you to do is, I actually want you to write down all the ways that you're in lack at the minute. So the lack version of yourself, like, where are you in lack? And then an abundant mindset would be the opposite. So it would be, how does the higher version of myself show up? And they're grateful, they're generous, they identify as, I am capable, I can do it. They don't doubt themselves. I am strong. I am a successful businesswoman. Money loves me. Right? Now, it's very difficult to shift into an abundant mindset and start to identify as an abundant person when you've been riddled in lack, and it's very difficult to rewire, but not impossible, and you just need to be persistent with it. So, for example, picture me back in the middle of nowhere in the south of Ireland with no money, no connections, no network or anything, but I wanted to build this online business to achieve freedom and location freedom, financial freedom, XYZ. I just identified as the higher version of myself, and I just stayed on that frequency. Now, there was obviously times where I went back into lack, but I just kept responding with this. And how did I do that? How did I get onto that higher frequency? And how can you get onto this higher frequency? You practice gratitude every single day. You can write out a manifesto of you in the present tense of the highest version of yourself, And then ask yourself, even just ask yourself right now, what are 3 steps that I can take right now that shift my frequency into one of abundance as opposed to lack? Or what would the highest version of myself do? And use what you've got. So let's say you're someone who wants to be an actress, for example. I'm using that example because I hope to be one day. And what would they do and how would they act? So they may research film that they absolutely adore and love. They may practice scripts from different films. They may take up some acting classes or look up on YouTube how to be a better actress or actor. They might practice their speaking and look at investing in public speaking classes. 3 steps, or even something as simple as, for me, when I was going around like the back arse of nowhere, in the middle of nowhere, in my tiny village in the south of Ireland, and when I did want to become an online fitness coach, I've obviously evolved since then, but that was my initial thing. I practiced gratitude every single day for my higher self. I practiced gratitude every single day for where I was and what I had, and I used what I had. I just used my shed, and I posted live workouts every single day for 2 years, because that's what the higher version of myself would have done. And that was generous. I just was so generous with my time and giving back. So I practiced gratitude, I was generous, and I acted in line with the highest version of myself, even though my external circumstances looked different. Everything changed, and everything changed me then because of that. From there, what you need to do is you need to, after you've figured out like where you are in lack, and once you re-identify as someone who's in abundance, you need to decide and detach. This is our favorite saying inside the 1% Club. So the 1% Club is a sales content and mindset hub that Emma and I have built out, and this is just our favorite saying in it, right? We always say, decide and detach. Decide what it is that you want. No plan B is really helpful, and it means that you just go all in on the thing. But if you're not a psychopath like me, it's okay. If you have a backup plan or whatever, that's fine. But if you don't, you're much more likely to get to the goal quicker. Anyway, just decide who it is that you want to be. What impact do you want to have on the world? What dream do you really, really want that you hold so closely to you? And then from there, from learning all these principles of getting into abundance, gratitude and generosity, changing your state, not focusing on the how, just focusing on your state of being. What state would the highest version of yourself be in, and what are 3 actions that I can take that the highest version of myself would take right now? And for me, when I was back in my horse shed, it was literally gratitude, giving back, and showing up for my horse shed. Not focusing on my external circumstances, not reacting to my physical reality, just taking aligned action of the highest version of myself. And that's how I collapse time in it, right? And detach, let go of the when or the how. And this is the exact framework that I used for pitching live to Steven Bartlett, Simon Squibbs and Ferdinand. I decided that this was something I was going to do. I was going to have a lot of leverage that I used from knowing Steven, anyways, from knowing him inside out and upside down. I was using all this leverage of knowing so much information about him and him being my biggest mentor and inspiration, but a lot of it was deciding that that was what I was going to do, going all in on that thing and believing I am someone who is capable of doing that, and then detaching from the outcome. just completely detaching from the how and just focusing so much on my identity of the person who can do that thing. And it was the same then when I was pitching to Simon and Rio Ferdinand. I visualized all week how it was going to go, and then I decided that that was going to happen, and then I detached from the outcome completely. So I was on a frequency of abundance as opposed to lack. So I am grateful that I get to pitch to Simon and Rio Ferdinand. I am grateful that I am the type of person who can do that. I am so grateful for that. And then that put me on the same frequency and energy as those people, and we are all just energy. We are all built up of matter, you know, and it's kind of like that thing of what wires together fires together. So like, let's say someone's listening to a radio station. Let's say there's one at home, it's Live 95 FM. But you could be on that radio, I could have been on that radio station, but Rio Ferdinand, Simon Squibbs and Steven Bartlett are all listening to Spin South West. How do I make sure that I'm tuning into Spin South West so I attract those people because I'm on the same energy frequency as them? And that's what I did. And I knew I was on that frequency, so therefore I knew it was going to come to me. And obviously this took so much years of work and rewiring and identifying as the highest version of myself. But the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because you are capable of doing it too. So, actionable steps that you can take after this, okay? Decide who it is that you want to be. Take 3 actionable steps every single day that the higher version of yourself would do. I'll give you a hint: practice gratitude and be generous. There's 2. Now you just need to pick one more. And detach from the how. Because remember, and this is what Tony Robbins says, the how creates the uncertainty. The strategy creates uncertainty. Right? And if you focus instead on your state of being, that's what's so important, your state of being, that equals success. Too many people go with have, do, be, instead of it should be, do, have. So let me give you an example. I am someone who can pitch to Steven Bartlett. I'm going to take all the actions possible that the higher version of myself would take right now in order to do that, and I have it. I got it. It came to me, right? Instead of, I have to pitch to Steven Bartlett. Like, I have to do this thing. I don't know how I'm going to have it, but I just have to have it. Fear-based mindset. And now I'm like scattered and I'm like, oh my God, I'm all over the place and how I'm going to do this, and now I don't know how I'm going to do it, and now I'm in analysis paralysis, and now I'm all over the shop. And then I am someone who can do this, but I'm so unhappy now here because I basically self-sabotage and kind of just went down a road that was so difficult, and it was just sheer force, and it was so much work and overwhelm and just pure force. And now I'm here and I'm unhappy and I can't sustain it, and now it's not sustainable. So I'm not saying that you can't get there by sheer force with strategy. You can, and there's a lot of successful people who do that, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I would say I'm a great mix of both. I work extremely hard, but I take a lot of aligned action, and I work smart. I wouldn't say I'm a busy fool. I work smart, and I just enjoy working a lot anyways. But if you can change your state and you can get onto a frequency of the person who already has everything in your spiritual and mental reality, then it actually has to, by law, it will all come into fruition in your physical reality. I will explain it more maybe in another episode, but for now you just need to get out of a lack mindset. So instead of focusing on the how, focus on your state of being more in an abundance mindset, generosity, gratitude, and one more thing that the higher version of yourself would do, and then detach. Completely detach. And let me know how you get on. I also believe alongside those things that visualization is so important, but also, and I'll go into a video on that or a podcast episode on that, but also embarrassment being the cost of entry and doing the thing scared. You must lean into the discomfort of doing something scared. And that's why I'm running the challenge on the Orange Juice Theory. If you're new here, I am running a challenge on the Orange Juice Theory podcast where if you do something scared, you can message our page, the Orange Juice Theory podcast, on Instagram. Send us what you did scared, and we will post it so you get exposure for your business, or if you're a content creator, if you're someone who just wants to go after your goals and dreams, you will get exposure on our page by a collaborative post for doing the thing scared, because that's what it takes. Embarrassment is the cost of entry. Do the thing scared, and please implement what I taught you today, and all your desires will come to you.